June 12, 1963. Las Vegas. The clock strikes 1:17 a.m., and the Strip is alive with a feverish glow, neon lights bleeding into the black desert sky like wounds that refuse to heal. Inside the Sands Hotel, the Copa room echoes with fading applause, the kind that lingers like smoke after a gunshot. Dean Martin has just stepped off stage, his voice still hanging in the air, smooth as whiskey, wrapping around the hearts of a crowd drunk on his charm. But Dean isn't smiling backstage. His hand trembles, just a fraction, as he lights a cigarette. Because tonight, a message has slithered into his world like a venomous snake: he's here. And he wants you. Alone. Not a request. A command. From a man whose name is whispered in fear, whose empire of shadows controls the casinos, the shows, the very pulse of Sin City. A Mafia boss with a blank check in his pocket. And Dean Martin. He's about to refuse it. What happens next will send shockwaves through Hollywood, proving that even in a town built on deals and debts, one man could say no, and live to sing about it. But why would Dean, the king of cool, risk everything? To understand, we have to peel back the layers of glamour, dive into the grit where it all began. Because this isn't just a story of defiance. It's the hidden legacy of a boy who learned to fight long before he learned to croon. Picture Steubenville, Ohio, in the 1920s, a gritty steel town choking on factory smoke, where the Ohio River carried away dreams as fast as it brought in immigrants scraping for survival. This is where Dino Paul Crocetti was born on June 7, 1917, to Italian parents who barely spoke English. His father, Gaetano, a barber with calloused hands and a quiet dignity, clipped hair for pennies in a shop that smelled of pomade and desperation. His mother, Angela, scrubbed floors until her knees bled, her face etched with the lines of endless toil. Young Dino grew up in a world where survival wasn't a choice, it was a battle. The streets were ruled by shadows, whispers of the Cleveland Mafia already seeping into the gambling dens and speakeasies that dotted the town. Steubenville wasn't just a place, it was a pressure cooker, forging men out of boys with fists and fortitude. Dino learned English the hard way, mocked by schoolyard bullies who called him Wop and Dago, their laughter cutting deeper than any knife. He quit school at 14, his report card a graveyard of failures, but his spirit unbroken. Jobs came and went, stock boy in a dingy warehouse, runner in the steel mills where the heat seared his skin and the clang of metal drowned out his thoughts. But it was the underground world that truly shaped him. By 16, Dino was dealing cards in smoke-filled basements, where men with scarred knuckles and hidden pistols bet their lives on a flip of fate. The Mafia's influence was everywhere, running the illegal casinos, enforcing debts with brass knuckles and broken bones. Dino watched it all, his dark eyes absorbing the lessons: own nothing, fear nothing, own nothing that can be taken away. Then came the ring. Not the glitzy kind with spotlights and cheering crowds, but the brutal, blood-soaked basements where underground boxing matches drew crowds of desperate gamblers. Dino became Kid Crochet, a nod to his Italian heritage, stepping into the makeshift arenas with gloves that smelled of sweat and defeat. He wasn't a natural, his nose shattered twice, ribs cracked like dry twigs under heavy blows. He lost more fights than he won, staggering home with black eyes and a pocketful of $5 bills. But each punch taught him resilience. When you own nothing, he'd later say in private moments, no one owns you. That mantra became his shield. Amid the pain, he discovered his voice, singing in those same smoky halls between bouts, his baritone cutting through the haze like a lifeline. It was raw, unpolished, but it stirred something in the hardened men around him. Little did they know, this kid from Steubenville was destined for stages far grander, and dangers far deadlier. By the 1940s, Dino had reinvented himself as Dean Martin, shedding the rough edges like an old skin. He crooned at nightclubs, his voice velvet and inviting, drawing crowds that included the very mobsters who'd once loomed over his youth. But fame exploded when he teamed up with Jerry Lewis in 1946. Their act was electric, Dean's suave straight man to Jerry's manic clown, a comedy duo that lit up Atlantic City and beyond. Hollywood called, and suddenly Dean was starring in films like My Friend Irma, and At War with the Army, his charm leaping off the screen. Albums flew off shelves, his renditions of That's Amore and Memories Are Made of This becoming anthems of post-war optimism. But beneath the spotlight, the shadows followed. The Mafia's grip on entertainment was ironclad, controlling clubs, influencing deals, demanding favors. Dean navigated it carefully, performing at mob-owned venues, rubbing elbows with bosses like Sam Giancana and Tony Accardo, but always at arm's length. He knew the game: smile, sing, but never sign your soul away. Enter the 1950s, and Dean's star burned brighter. The split from Jerry in 1956 could have derailed him, but instead, it freed him. Solo albums topped charts, films like The Young Lions showcased his dramatic depth. And then, Vegas. The Sands Hotel became his kingdom, where the Rat Pack, Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr., Peter Lawford, Joey Bishop, and Dean, ruled like untamed royalty. Nights blurred into days of whiskey, women, and wild performances, the crowd roaring as Dean slurred his lines with that trademark wink, pretending to be tipsier than he was. But it was all an act. Dean drank, sure, but never to excess. He was the cool one, the unshakable center, trusted by all. Frank was the fire, Sammy the soul, but Dean. He was the rock. And that independence drew eyes, dangerous eyes. Whispers started in the late 1950s. The Mafia bosses who owned pieces of the casinos saw Dean as more than talent. He was a magnet for money, pulling in high rollers night after night. But men like that didn't like loose ends. They wanted control. Dean's FBI file, later declassified, hints at the ties: early dice games for the Cleveland Syndicate, performances for notorious figures. He even had a brief affair with Meyer Lansky's daughter, Sandra, in the 1960s, a passionate fling that tangled him deeper in the web. But Dean never fully committed. He did small favors, appearing at events, shaking hands, but nothing that bound him. That irked the bosses. In a town where everyone had a price, Dean Martin seemed priceless. And that's when the offer came. Not just any offer. A blank check. But before we dive into that fateful night, consider this: what if Dean had said yes? His career might have soared higher, or crashed in flames. Hang on, because the tension is about to build, and the shadows are closing in. Back to that June night in 1963. The Sands is buzzing, the air thick with cigarette smoke and the clink of chips from the casino floor. Dean's show has ended, Everybody Loves Somebody, still echoing in the minds of the audience. Backstage, he wipes sweat from his brow, his tuxedo impeccable, tie loosened just so. A stagehand approaches, eyes darting nervously. Mr. Martin, he's waiting. In the green room. Dean nods, exhaling smoke slowly. No questions. He knows who. The boss, a man whose real name we'll call the Shadow for the fear he instilled, controlled swaths of Vegas, his empire built on extortion, gambling, and silent threats. Linked to the Chicago outfit, he was the kind who made senators sweat and stars disappear. Dean walks the hallway, walls lined with photos of smiling celebrities oblivious to the deal struck in these shadows. Each step echoes like a heartbeat, building the anticipation. What does he want? A favor? A cut? Or something more possessive? The green room door creaks open. Inside, the air is still, heavy. The boss sits at a table, suit tailored to perfection, rings glinting like daggers. A scotch untouched beside him. Two bodyguards flank the walls, their eyes cold as steel. Dean, he says, voice smooth but edged with command. Sit. Dean does, casual, lighting another cigarette. The boss smiles, no warmth, just calculation. You pack 'em in, Dino. The crowds love you. We love the money you bring. Dean nods, waiting. Then it comes, the boss slides a check across the table. Blank. Signed. Any number, he whispers. Fill it in. But in return, exclusive. 3 nights a week, my hotel. No cancellations. You perform for me. Make us look legitimate. The words hang like a noose. Dean stares at the check, his face a mask, eyes half-lidded, lips curved in that signature smirk. Inside, a storm rages, memories of Steubenville basements, mob enforcers collecting debts, friends vanishing into the night. He thinks of his kids, his freedom, the life he's built without chains. The room tenses. The bodyguards shift, hands inching toward hidden holsters. The boss leans in, eyes narrowing. This town's mine, Dean. Don't make me ask twice. Suspense coils like a spring. Dean exhales smoke, slow and deliberate. His jaw tightens, just a flicker. Then, with 2 fingers, he pushes the check back. No. 1 word. Calm. Cool. Unyielding. The boss blinks, face hardening. You misunderstand. Dean stands, smoothing his jacket. I understood just fine. I don't work for anybody. Silence explodes, sharp, suffocating. The boss's hand twitches, as if reaching for a gun that isn't there. His smile cracks into something feral. You've got balls, Martin. But balls get crushed. Dean turns toward the door, pausing. Maybe. But not tonight. He walks out, heart pounding but steps steady. The door clicks shut. And just like that, Dean Martin has declared war on the Mafia. But what comes next? Retaliation? Ruin? Or something Hollywood never saw coming? Stay with me, the climax is unraveling, and the emotional fallout will break your heart. The response shocked Hollywood because it didn't come as bullets or beatings, at first. Whispers spread like wildfire through the studios and casinos. Club bookings dried up overnight, contracts vanished into thin air. Anonymous tips to journalists painted Dean as difficult, unreliable. Even Frank pulled him aside one smoky evening at the Sands. Dino, you crazy. You don't say no to these guys. Dean poured a drink, his eyes distant. I just did, Frank. Sinatra shook his head, worry etching his face. They'll bury you. But Dean shrugged, that cool facade unbreakable. Inside, though, doubt gnawed, nights spent staring at the ceiling, wondering if a car bomb or a midnight visit awaited. The Mafia's revenge was subtle, insidious, pressure on producers, whispers to executives. Dean's TV show teetered, film offers slowed. Yet he held firm, drawing on that Steubenville steel. A week later, the boss strikes again. Another meeting, this time with muscle, 2 enforcers blocking Dean's path as he leaves rehearsal. He wants you. Now. Dean stops, eyes locking onto theirs. No fear, just quiet resolve. Tell him I'm busy. They grab his arms, rough, bruising. The hallway empties, tension electric. One growls, you don't walk away. Dean's voice drops, low and lethal, watch me. A standoff, seconds stretching into eternity. Then, unbelievably, they release him. Why? Because hurting Dean Martin wasn't just business, it was suicide. He was beloved, the crowds, the fans, the town itself would revolt. Dean steps into the night, the desert wind whipping his coat, a free man in a captive city. But the emotional toll mounted. Dean confided in few, but those close saw the cracks, longer stares into his glass, quieter laughs. His marriage to Jean was straining, the kid sensing the unspoken fear. Yet from this fire, Dean emerged stronger. His career didn't crumble, it soared. The public sensed the myth, the man who couldn't be bought. Albums like This Time I'm Swingin' hit #1. Films rolled in, Ocean's 11, Sergeants 3, The Rat Pack tighter than ever. Vegas paid more for fewer shows, owners wary of the boss's wrath but drawn to Dean's draw. Ironically, the refusal made him untouchable. Whispers turned to legends, some said the boss admired his guts, others claimed Frank intervened with Kennedy ties. The truth? Dean's independence was his weapon. He owed nothing, so they owned nothing. Years passed, the 1960s giving way to the 70s. Vegas changed, corporations edging out the mob, neon fading into memory. The Rat Pack splintered, Sammy's health faltered, Frank chased relevance, but Dean. He retreated, finding solace in golf, westerns on TV, quiet evenings. The affair with Lansky's daughter ended in heartbreak, a reminder of tangled webs. Tragedy struck, his son Dean Paul Jr.'s plane crash in 1987 shattered him, eyes hollow with grief. But through it all, that night in 1963 lingered, a hidden legacy. Dean Martin died on Christmas Day, 1995, at 78, the Strip dimming its lights in tribute. Not for the songs or films, but for the man who stared down the Mafia and walked away. His voice enchanted millions, his charm disarmed the world, but his refusal? That proved cool wasn't an act, it was armor. In a Hollywood of compromises, Dean taught us, hold your ground, and the world bends. If this untold story gripped you, revealing the shocking secrets of a legend, hit that like button, subscribe for more hidden Hollywood tales, and share with a friend who loves the golden era. Drop a comment, which Rat Pack member's story should we uncover next, Frank's mob ties or Sammy's battles? Your voice could shape our next video. This is the hidden legacy of Dean Martin, the man who shocked Hollywood by saying no. And if you'd like more hidden Hollywood stories, more untold legends, and more secrets from the golden age, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, because the next story might be even darker, even stranger, and even more unbelievable than this one.